Yo, what is up, my fellow duelists? Today I will be bringing you a retro deck profile in the form of QuickDraw DandyWarrior, one of my favorite decks of all time. So I think QuickDraw DandyWarrior is very versatile, and there's a lot of different ways you can build this deck. It really just depends on how you choose to play it and your play style, I guess. Like you could play a hero engine in this deck with the Future Fusion. You can go I've seen some people even play Stratos, and they play the Plasma, the Destiny Hero Plasma. You can go that route if you want. I've seen some builds play a little more heavy on the Monarchs. I've seen some builds even play like the Blaze Accelerator, sorry, with the I can't remember the name of it. The level 4 guy that searches it, the spell. I've seen builds play that one. So there's a lot of variants that you can kind of mess around with to see what build you like. But yeah, let's go ahead and just jump in. So we have the standard, 2 of QuickDraw, 2 Debris, and 2 Dandelion. This is the core of the deck. This deck is essentially just a pile deck, really. It's just a pile of like good cards thrown together. But you do need to keep in mind, if you guys are new to QuickDraw DandyWarrior, QuickDraw locks you. You can only make synchro monsters that mention synchron tuners. So you can't just make whatever synchro you want. You're a little bit locked. And then Debris locks you. You can only make dragon synchros with it. And I believe the other level cannot be 4. Yeah, cannot be level 4. And but Debris is insane because it recycles your dandelions. You just summon this in attack, and then it's an easy 7, and you get tokens on top. And then obviously QuickDraw plus Dandelion is like the forbidden combo of this deck. And then we'll get to the plant engine with 2 Lone Fire and 1 Titanium. These cards are insane, honestly. I think the plant engine itself is like really broken, and Titanium plus Dandelion tokens too. You can actually tribute the token. Well, you can't tribute them the turn they're summoned, but like let's say you end on Titanium plus tokens. Now, if your opponent tries to target your stuff, you can tribute the tokens on their turn, or if they pass back to you. So it just creates this big presence, and obviously it can out Stardust. So for that reason, Titanium is like really, obviously it sucks really bad to draw it. You could make some arguments to play 41. I believe I'm playing 41, but I would have to double check. And then for the flip engine, we're playing 2 of the Mega Hamsters and then 3 Raikos. I think this is pretty. Aside from 2 hamsters, I think you're gonna see this in like majority QuickDraw lists. Raiko is super solid. It gets your milling your dandelions, hopefully, to hit him. It also fills your avarices, and it's just a free pop as well. And then if it stays on board, you could just tribute it for Caius. Hamster is kind of the same case. It gets you 2 your Raikos, also 1800 defense, solid defense, very good against. This card's really good against Blackwings, which is why I play 2. Otherwise, if I wasn't anticipating as much Blackwings, I'd probably just play 1. But this card is a little bit difficult for Blackwings to deal with. Anything over 1800 is a little tough for them. And then, of course, the triple Caius. This card, Caius, is really busted in Edison. The fact that it can just target anything on the field and just banish it is so good. And then it comes up sometimes, occasionally, where you can just banish itself just to burn for 1,000, and sometimes that gets you game. yeah, I mean, I don't think there's much to be said about Caius. Just really insane. In the format anyway. And then good staple one-ofs, we got Card Trooper, Sangan, Reaper, and then Gores, of course, like the best hand trap of the format. Gores can win games on its own sometimes. But everything else, I think Card Trooper and Sangan's pretty standard. Spirit Reaper, sometimes I was debating on swapping this for a Morphing Jar, but I'm a little iffy on Morphing Jar. I feel like it's a bit high rolly. So I'm not a big fan of high rolly cards. I prefer more like what's within the game state, I suppose. But these are all pretty like staple, I would say. And then moving on to the spells, of course, the best, kind of like the main reason I even wanted to build this deck was Pot. I mean, this card's insane, recovering resources, and you're getting a +1 on top of that. Can recycle your synchros. This card just does so much for the deck. Also, going games 2 and 3, it's usually, you usually side one out. That's usually how it goes because you don't want to see this in your opening hand. But it kind of depends on the matchup too sometimes. Like against more like aggro based decks, I tend to side one out because I don't want to brick. But Pot is, I mean, it's just really, really strong. Then staple one-ofs, we got MST, Heavy, Foolish, and then Brain Control. These are all like very solid. Of course, the power spells, quote unquote. You're gonna see these in like every list. Traps, I play a heavier trap amount than probably other quick draw lists. So I'm playing 2 Compulse. Pretty good. Like I said, at my locals, a lot of Blackwings is really, really popular. So being able to hit the synchros is good. People do also play quick draw at my locals as well. So this card's really, really good against in the mirrors for hitting the their Stardust or their Drill Warriors, because Drill Warrior is like the main problem card. Once Drill Warrior gets going, it's very, very difficult to stop the deck. Of course, 2 Bottomless. This is pretty standard, I think. And then I played 2 Dust Tornado because I absolutely respect the hell out of Royal Oppression, which absolutely dunks on this deck. Originally, these were trap stuns. So I was playing trap stuns before, but I ended up changing them to Dust Tornadoes just because this actually deals with oppression, whereas trap stun doesn't. It's just kind of like a 1-turn thing. And Royal Oppression can actually stop your Drill Warrior because it's considered a summon, a special summon when it comes back. So I'd rather just be able to deal with it rather than just like shutting it off for a turn. And because back row also beats up on this deck, like trap decks absolutely like wreck this deck. So just having more back row removal is just really good. And then if I'm playing 1D Prison, it should be 2, but 1 is all I have, so we're just playing the 1. It's good. Again, I would play more if I had more. Then, of course, we got our staple traps in the form of Call, Torrential, Mirror Force, Trap Dust Shoot, and then I am playing the 1 Solemn Judgment. So these 5 right here are very standard, just the most powerful traps of the format. They're all limited for a good reason. Okay, so moving on to the I guess I could do the side deck really quick. I feel like side decks don't change very much. So we have 2 Cyber Dragon. Kind of need to play it for the Chimera Tech Fusion, for any like machine decks. 2 Crow. I kind of go back and forth on whether I want to main these or not. They're really good in the main, like in theory, because they actually help fill your pots, since they're just like, you could just discard them at any point. Because I do side these in quite a bit. They're good against pretty much almost every deck of the format. Against Quick Draw in particular, because pot does not resolve if DD Crow banishes a target or banishes one of the targets off of pot. So it's decent against Blackwings. I don't think it's enough to stop them, but it is decent. So I kind of go back and forth on whether I want to main it or not. Then I play 2 Kaiku. This card's really good. It's basically just more copies of DD Crow, and it's an 1800 kind of beat stick, so this is pretty good against like most decks. And then I am playing the 1 Jinzo. This card is very good in my opinion, because trap decks are very popular at my locals, and plus this helps deal with Royal Oppression as well. So this is just kind of like a infinite trap stun, I guess, as long as it's on the board. And it catches a lot of people off guard. They don't really expect it, so very good. Usually I'll end up signing 1 Caius out just to play this, because again, I don't really want to brick. The deck already is somewhat bricky. And then the Botanical Lion. This card's pretty good. Very good against like aggro decks or aggro based decks. Also, they cannot brain control this or creature swap if for some weird reason they're playing creature swap. Botanical Lion is very, very good. Snowman Eater, again, more just for more aggro decks. Was in the main originally, but I ended up just putting it in the side. And then 2 My Body as a Shield. This card is really good. I side these in pretty much every single game because you want to protect your Drill Warrior as much as possible, and it absolutely gets like beat up by like trap cards and stuff. Because Drill Warrior, you can just discard and banish it, and it'll dodge most of your. It's gonna be protected until your turn. It's gonna be protected until your following. Drill Warrior is gonna be protected until your following turn. So you want to be able to protect your Drill Warrior from like any potential trap cards that your opponent could have for your Drill Warrior. So again, this card is really good for protecting Drill Warrior for that reason. Also just helps deal with Stardust too. And then Twister, just more ways to deal with oppression. Soul Release. This is more so for the mirror. Also really good against like frogs and stuff. Or any kind of like frog deck really. And then finally, I have 2 Pulling the Rugs. You're going to see this in like every side deck pretty much. So I don't feel like there's a lot to say there. And moving on to the extra deck. 2 Chimera Techs for the Cyber Dragons, of course. Then we have the 2 Drill Warrior. Arguably the best synchro of the format. Being able to loop Dandelion or really any card in your graveyard is kind of, or any monster card, sorry, is kind of insane. Its really only weakness is its like lackluster stat line, or not lackluster, but 2400 isn't like a premium stat line for a synchro monster. In Edison, 2500 is kind of the premium. But yeah, Drill Warrior is insane. Discard, it essentially dodges most things, and being able to loop resources is like super strong. 2 Stardust, this is fairly standard. Of course, it's like one of the best 8s in the format. And then for our synchro monsters, we have Turbo Warrior. This card is very good. Deals with Stardust. Actually, this card deals with a lot of synchros. Also, can't be, I believe it can't be destroyed by. Oh, it can't be targeted by the effects of level 6 or lower. So they can't Caius this, which is pretty good. That tends to catch people off guard. Nitro Warrior. This card comes up sometimes where like you just want to push for game. You can maybe resolve a pot, and then this will pump by 1000 attack. Sometimes that's enough for game. Junk Archer. This is really good for dealing with tokens. That's really the only purpose I find this card useful for. It's just for dealing with tokens. Road Warrior. The effect to summon a level 2 tuner from deck does not come up. You really only play this because it's a 3k body. I have seen some builds where they play the Junk Synchron, but I don't think you really need to play that. And then for our Dragon Synchros, we have Ancient Fairy, one of the, you just have to play all the good 7s pretty much. And then Black Rose. This is for sure like one of the best, probably next to Drill Warrior, one of the best synchros of the format. Also, the second effect to banish a plant and change something to attack and reduce its attack to 0 is very relevant. You have a lot of targets in the form of Dandelions, Lone Fires, Titanials. So that effect does come up sometimes where you can just push for game that way. Iron Chain. It's the best 6 in terms of stats. It's 2,500. This effect isn't really relevant. You just play it because it's a 6, 2,500. And then Red Dragon Archfiend, of course. I don't think I've ever summoned this, but it is a 3k level 8, which is very good. You can also clear a board if your opponent like walls up. And then finally, Trident Dragon. I really like Trident Dragon. The only way you can actually make this card in this deck is with Iron Chain and Debris Dragon. That is legit the only way you can make it. But this card is super strong. Like, if your opponent is not respecting it, or expecting it for that matter, you can pop like your dead calls, you can pop your tokens, and then just swing for game. I've actually summoned this card like a few times throughout my time playing this deck, and it pretty much I've won every single time that I've summoned this. So this card is like very, very strong. I see no reason to cut it, really. And yeah, that's the deck profile. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and please leave a like and subscribe.